You have a camera roll full of photos. Good ones, actually. A sunset that looked almost fake. A moment with someone you love. A version of yourself you almost liked that day. And they just sit there, quietly, unseen. You didn't post them. You probably won't. And if someone asks why, you might say something like, I just don't really do social media, or I don't need the validation. And both of those things might be true, but they're not the whole story, because the whole story is more interesting than that. And honestly, a lot more human. This isn't about being shy. It's not about being private in some simple surface-level way. Something deeper is happening here. And if you've ever hovered over the post button and then quietly closed the app, this is for you. First, let's say something clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. Not posting your photos is not a red flag. It is not avoidance of life. It is not fear dressed up as preference. It might be all of those things in small doses, the way most human behavior is. But at its core, it is your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. Protect the parts of you that feel most real. Your brain is not broken. It is being careful, and there's a difference. Here's the first reason this happens, and it starts long before social media ever existed. Some people grew up in environments where being seen was not always safe. Not dramatically unsafe, not necessarily, but subtly. A critical parent, a classroom that laughed at the wrong moment, a family where showing excitement about yourself was quietly discouraged. Over time, the brain learns a quiet rule. Visibility invites evaluation, and evaluation can hurt. So the nervous system builds a small, sophisticated wall. It doesn't announce itself, it just makes you hesitate. It makes you look at a photo of yourself and think, not quite, even when the photo is fine, even when you look good, even when the moment was perfect. This is not low self-esteem. This is a learned pattern, a system that was installed early, running quietly in the background of every "should I post this?" moment you've ever had. The reframe is this: that hesitation once protected you. It kept you small enough to stay safe. It's not a flaw. It was a strategy. The second reason is about identity, specifically the fear of having it flattened. There's something unsettling about reducing a complex human life into a grid of images. A post becomes a permanent public claim about who you are, and some people, deeply internally oriented people, resist that. Not because they're modest, but because they know a single photo cannot hold them. You are not the version of yourself in any given moment. You contain contradictions. You are serious and silly, sad and grateful on the same afternoon, and the internet collapses that into a single, likable, shareable unit, and something in you recoils at that. Psychologists call this identity diffusion anxiety, a discomfort with having your sense of self pinned down prematurely. It's more common in people who are deeply self-aware, people who have spent time genuinely examining who they are. Ironically, the more you know yourself, the more you resist being defined by a thumbnail. But here's the part nobody tells you. Not posting is also sometimes a form of emotional regulation, and that is not the same thing as fear. When you choose not to share something, you are keeping it whole, uncontaminated by likes or silence or comments that miss the point. There is a version of a memory that exists only in you, and it's perfect exactly as it is. The moment you post it, you invite the world to respond to it. And responses change things. They color the memory with external noise. Some people, especially those with a rich inner world, guard their experiences the way you'd guard a candle in the wind. Not because they're afraid, but because the flame matters. The third reason is about control, and this one is quieter than it sounds. We live in an environment of relentless, low-grade overstimulation, notifications, news, other people's highlight reels playing on a loop, The nervous system is constantly processing, filtering, managing, and for people who are already carrying a lot, emotionally, mentally, professionally, adding one more variable feels like too much. When you don't post, you remove yourself from a feedback loop. You don't have to check who saw it. You don't have to interpret the silence if nobody comments. You don't have to manage the small social arithmetic of who liked it and who didn't. This is the behavior of someone protecting their mental bandwidth, their peace, their finite daily energy. Think of it like this. For some people, not posting is like closing a door in a loud house, not because they're hiding, but because they need one room to be quiet. The fourth reason lives at the intersection of attachment and intimacy. For some people, sharing a photo publicly feels like sharing it with strangers, which, technically, it is. And some people are wired or shaped by experience to reserve their realness for close relationships, not because they distrust the world broadly, but because genuine intimacy is precious to them. They would rather show you their life in person than broadcast it. This is sometimes linked to what attachment researchers call a secure but private orientation. These people have no shortage of connection. They just prefer connection that is reciprocal, chosen, and close. The idea of a stranger scrolling past a meaningful moment feels not just uncomfortable, but almost like a small violation of something sacred. The reframe: this is not withholding. This is discernment, a quiet form of protecting what matters most. And then there's the fifth reason, one that changes as you get older. When you're young, not posting can feel like a statement, an aesthetic. I'm not like everyone else. But as you age, it becomes something quieter and more honest, less a rejection of culture, more a recognition of what you actually need. You start to realize that your attention is finite, that every place you put yourself online is a place that requires maintenance, management, monitoring, response. And some people, as they accumulate years in self-knowledge, simply find that the return isn't worth the cost. The behavior looks the same from the outside, but internally it shifts from defiance to discernment, from anxiety to acceptance. The same action, at different life stages, means completely different things. That's what makes human beings so hard to reduce to categories. Here is what all of this adds up to when you step back and look at it. Not posting your photos is not one thing. It is a constellation of things: history, temperament, wiring, values, nervous system, and lived experience, all converging in a single quiet decision to close the app and keep the moment for yourself. It is not damage. It is not fear, at least not entirely. It is a way of moving through the world that prioritizes depth over visibility, realness over reach, intimacy over audience. Your camera roll is full of moments that belong to you, completely, privately, wholly to you. And there is something quietly radical about that. In a world that is always asking you to share, to perform, to prove. You don't owe the internet your life. You never did.